Hi guys, so today we're going to be talking about what to do if you think you have POTS, what sort of doctor to see and how to get the diagnosis process started, and then also to get that diagnosis. So for most people you probably suspect you have POTS if you're feeling dizzy or faint, lightheaded, or even if you are fainting, or perhaps you're feeling palpitations, and especially if those symptoms are more prominent when you're standing up or even when you go from lying to sitting. So a good place to start is to do a test at home. Now of course this isn't going to give you an actual diagnosis, but it can give you an indication of whether POTS could be the cause for your symptoms. So I think it's a good idea to get an app on your phone. So I'll leave a picture on the screen of a heart rate monitor app. That's the one that I used in the beginning and it is pretty accurate. Otherwise you can get a little heart rate monitor just like this one, but if you're not diagnosed yet and if POTS might not be the problem, then you might not want to spend money on this one just yet. But both do work really well. So I actually have a video on how to do that test at home, but basically you lie down and then you stand up and you record your heart rate and you're looking for an increase of either 30 beats per minute or for your heart rate to go over 120 beats per minute and for it to stay elevated. So that's essentially it, but in a card up here and probably in my description I will leave a link to that video on how to do that test at home. If your numbers are going up when you're standing up, then it could be that you have POTS, in which case the next step would be to see your GP or your family doctor. I think they call it a PCP as well in America. So you just go to your family doctor and tell them your symptoms and that you think you may have POTS. Most doctors do know about it now, but in some cases, and especially a few years ago when I went to the doctor, I printed off some information just in case they weren't aware of it, took that along with me and then said, I don't mean to do your job, but I think this is what I've got. And then your primary doctor will probably do just a little test with one of these where you just sit down and stand up and they'll have a look at that, and then it's likely that they'll refer you on. So the most common types of doctors to diagnose POTS is either a cardiologist or a neurologist. Neurologists have interest in autonomic dysfunction, and so that's why a neurologist can do it, and then cardiology is of course associated with the heart. So that's why they're the main types of doctors that diagnose it. Your family doctor might actually diagnose it, and they can do that, but in most cases you will be referred on just to make sure that this is what's going on and there's nothing else, because this is something that you want to get right. So once you're either at the cardiologist or the neurologist or potentially somewhere else, but in most cases it will be one of those two, your doctor will either do a tilt table test, which is where you lay on a bed and then they strap you into it, they tilt you up to an angle and then they take heart rate and I think blood pressure readings as well. So they take your readings just from going lying to at an angle. Alternatively, they might think a tilt table test is unnecessary and they might do an active stand test or a poor man's tilt table test, which is where you're not strapped into the table. You just put a heart rate monitor probably on your finger and then you just either lie down or sit down and stand up and then just see what your heart rate does under the guidance of that doctor, and then they can give you your diagnosis. So for me, I was sort of diagnosed 3 times. So I saw my family doctor, the GP, and she was like, yep, I definitely think you have POTS, but we think there's something else as well. So then I saw a consultant cardiologist and they said, yep, it's POTS, but we think something else as well. And then I saw a specialised doctor and confirmed it was POTS, and then the other stuff was separate. So that's how you get diagnosed. Really, there's not a lot to it. It's just either a tilt table test or it can be the poor man's active stand test, which is just without the table and you're not strapped in, and it's generally not for as long period of time. Any doctor really can do these tests, but that is the way it generally goes. I also wanted to say, if you're in America, I might be wrong, but I think you can skip the family doctor and just go straight for a cardiologist, because you have a lot more choice in who you see, but in England certainly it would be a GP first. So I hope that answers the question. It's probably quite a long video, but I got this question so many times that I thought I would just put it out there. I also wanted to say that my friend Izzy has a video on the criteria for POTS and how they assess it. You might find that helpful as well. So thank you so much for watching. Bye!